Yeah, they can always, to a certain extent, try to make plays, but it's just going to be so hard to lock the Naga Siren in particular down. So it is something that Team Team will try to sort of exploit and use to their advantage. In the meantime, though, one final ban coming out from them, and to a certain extent, they're still kind of maybe thinking about what this Tusk is going to be. The Sacred Tusk does kind of seem like the most obvious answer, but you can never be too sure on that Team side. And at this point, they've got plenty of reserve time. They can afford to sort of think this over and decide for themselves what really is going to be the best call for them. But it's tough. That Tusk is kind of a wild card right now.
Yeah, and it really is a little bit difficult to make sense of it. And I think that's where Team are also splitting the bans. If they wanted to, they could say this is a 4 Monkey and offlane Tusk, and now we're going to have a mid Mirana. Alone is one of the few players who still actually likes that hero in the mid position. But aside from that, it really is hard to fit this Tusk into a lineup that isn't just safe lane Monkey, 5 Coddle, 4 Mirana, 3 Tusk. That is what makes the most sense to me. And I think that's where the Pango ban, again, we've seen Alone Pango a few times now as well. So it makes a little bit of sense because, again, Pango versus Mars, not just Pango versus Mars, but Pango also versus Shaman and Naga. He really would have a free time. Every single Rolling Thunder would be, I think, a little bit too effective, as well as you don't get to play around Song TPs, which is a massive reason why you go for this hero. But I think now, Infamous, they're definitely looking for an Alone hero. I think that's why we see the Ember Spirit taken out because, again, Alone, very individually skilled player, and that would be cause for concern for the Naga Siren. A Hunt hero would be perfect for Infamous, someone to pursue him in the jungle and find these pickoffs because, again, it feels like Infamous's focus isn't going to necessarily be on Brax this game. It's going to more so be on taking away both Relia and Sammy Boy's game as much as possible.
Whatever Infamous are planning, we're going to be seeing it relatively soon here, because Infamous do have to go up first with this last selection. So does Tusk go to the off lane? Is this going to be that sort of Lumiere Monkey King again? They've got, well, to a certain extent, a blueprint for success based on what we saw the last time around, but they are not necessarily in a rush to make that choice with this final pick, and well, they don't really have to. They can make Team Team maybe sweat it out a little bit longer before they do come up with that choice, but okay, it's going to be
Kunga.
the Kunkka. We've seen plenty of him today, but from, well, Dark Mago in a previous matchup, although Alone, honestly, if he gets put on the Kunkka, maybe he's not quite as known for it compared to someone like Dark Mago, but still a hero that he should be able to make use of.
Yeah, and that's where does Ruya run it back? Pick the Death Prophet again, go for it. It's even more setup with the Naga Siren ulti. You can Naga Song into that Silence, and Silence is so good versus everyone on the Infinite side. None of them naturally want to build a lot of that Purge as well. I think Rana wants to get a Yules maybe, but everyone else is going to have to either rely on a BKB or just not being there. So I think the DP would slot in really nicely for them again, but maybe Ryoya is feeling that he does want to play more of an initiator. I think as good as the Death Prophet was in that early game, and even just being a hero that can lane versus the NP, that's a lot to say for a hero, but it feels like for this team specifically, it can't just all fall on Brax's shoulders. That's why, unfortunately for them, the Queen of Pain and Storm are always going to feel good for Ryoya. But you get this late into the draft, you're not going to have those heroes available to you. It's where we see a lot of teams first phase, a lot of their more consistent mid laners heroes. So it kind of makes sense that the pool is as thin as it is. But I don't know. Aside from Death Prophet, nothing really screams to me for them. And guess here we're gonna see, and it's gonna be the
Ooh,
puck.
all right, that's, well, it's not quite as durable by any means compared to something like the Death Prophet, but you were looking
Thanks,
for maybe a
guys.
situation where
Thanks a
Team
lot.
Team could take some of that pressure off of the Mars, and the Puck is certainly a hero that can make some of those plays happen, can make those rotations that you didn't really see much from Team Team in the previous game.
Yeah, and if there's one thing that could definitely benefit Team Team now in this puck pickup is you have a hero to chase around Lumiere. You have someone that gives you that vision over the hill. You're able to spot out this Monkey King, making those plays, and all you need is to see him for 1 second. Then you plop down the arena, you put down the coil, and then the fight gets really difficult for Infamous, where they don't really have the best save. They'll be able to throw down a bunch of boats, of course, but it's still not going to be nearly as easy for them. But Puck
Um,
versus Kunkka is not the best lane. I don't know. It's whatever. You could dodge the phase shift with Tidebringer, but again, I don't know. I still think that Infamous got exactly what they wanted in this draft. But yeah, Sacred is the coddle. I think
yeah.
that's what you're talking about.
I've just had to check a couple of times, make sure I wasn't sort of going crazy there, but I I don't know when we've last seen that. The Coddle mid, certainly, but Coddle in an off-lane position, it feels weird, but I don't know. We saw what the Keeper of the Light was able to do the last time around with a position 4's worth of farm, so maybe the plan will just be to get Sacred a whole hell of a lot of utility to work with, and then see how that sets them up in these fights.
Yeah, and it's a little bit strange too because you're pairing it with a Mirana, so you're really just going to play the farm game as opposed to actually trying to kill your opponents. Of course, a stray arrow can always land and set up for some crazy kill. I think the biggest benefit is that you are playing double ranged versus double melee. In addition to that, you're doing it versus Undying, so Mike does have to be very careful with the amount of harass he's going to be eating. I think the real reason they go for this massive swap, though, is because you are not going to play Tusk into Naga Siren. You just simply don't do enough damage. Every single time you go for the tag team, it gets wasted by that mirror image. I think the Tusk lane being as bad as it is the big reason why they swap it up so quickly, which also poses a question: why would they want to pick the Tusk if they could have gone for something a little bit more stable? But it's okay. They're trying out something slightly different, and a Tusk is something that we've seen before.
Makes a little bit more sense for their lineup in general, and with A on the Tusk, you're still going to have that sort of initiating potential, but now A as a position 5 Tusk can maybe be a little bit more concerned with some defensive plays as well with that snowball. That may counter out a lot of what Flea tries to put together. If he goes in for the lockdown and the snowball can just sort of break that up, then A is going to be constantly sort of on the lookout for that exact maneuver. And yeah, it does, again, sort of beg the question of why they wanted the Tusk in the first place, but it's going to work out, presumably, okay for them. It's just a matter now of, I really do want to know what is going to be the play for Sacred here. He's got those Null Talismans queued up, so that build doesn't quite work the same way that it used to, but it is, for now at least, looking like the game plan as we do get things underway here. Relatively standard split on the bounty runes, 2 to each side, and I want to see just what this lane does. Is Michael just going to be all in on the arrow for the range creeps, try and find some farm for himself, or do we see him try and take a stray shot at one of these safe lane heroes?
Yeah, regardless, I do think that Sammy Boy should have a really free time. I think the biggest thing for them is to not make the Undying as big of a target. If they can just get away with their lane, they're going to be happy. But that's where I think Sammy Boy should have a very free time. It is obnoxious laning double melee versus double range, but that's also where if Mike can, at least on those early levels, be that really big vanguard in front of the Naga. You just get to sit in front and try and right click down those very squishy ranged heroes. And if you land the right clicks, it's great, but it will be a lot of ranged heroes running away from the Undying and the Undying struggling to catch up, especially because he didn't get to start with boots.
Comes to lane with a pretty substantial amount of regen, but yeah, no boots to close that gap. Meanwhile, Sammy, really isn't going to care. Don't even think we'll really see any consideration into the ensnare. Maybe if a kill just literally falls into his lap, sure, but that's not really going to be the plan for him. He's just here to farm, and maybe Sacred can annoy him a little bit with the Illuminates later on, but that is much later on in the lane. For now, it's just going to be all about Sammy farming as hard as he can, but see Michael continuing to sort of throw out the arrows there, taking down the range creep. That's a little bit maybe less important with Sacred just blasting his way through the lane, through the whole wave with the Illuminate, but it is still going to be the focus for them.
Yeah, and it matters the most at the early levels just because Yeah, level 1 Illuminate, even though you do have this null talisman, isn't going to one-shot those range creeps, so just be a free deny for Sammy as long as he's paying attention. But that's also where you take a look at Sammy Boy. If he's just already third in CS, there really isn't going to be very much pressure here, especially if Mike can do a really nice job of scouting out whenever the blast does come through, and that's why there's so much vision already placed down here. Just get wind of where the arrows and the blasts are coming from, and there really can't be unaggressive play. A mistake needs to come out from team before any play can actually happen here.
So, going to be a relatively stable lane, I would say, down bot. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, things are looking pretty good to this point for Lumiere. Flea, okay, tries to put the shackles down onto A, and technically he'll connect, but Brax is a little bit too far away to do much with that, and this lane, I don't know, if Team get the right positioning, the shackle into a spear can kind of set them up, but that is going to be entirely dependent on Flea sort of getting himself into that position, and I mean, A doesn't have the snowball right now, but you have to assume he's going to get a point up in it relatively soon. But for now, they actually do manage to connect with those shards. Flea will turn around for the shackles, though, to make sure Lumiere can't hit him up immediately. That is going to be enough to keep him safe, but you see both sides not exactly shying away from early contact.
Yeah, and another double melee lane up top. Unfortunately for them, the chest bump is pretty powerful. The God's Rebuke is always going to kill the aggression, but Flea, I don't think he respected their cooldowns enough
Shards
here.
comes in again. He'll try for his shackle, but this time, I don't really think it's going to be enough. He's still getting slowed down. The Boundless comes out, and Lumiere gets first blood, so as you said, I don't think he respected the cooldown. Didn't think that that was going to be back up and running in time, but he was a little bit off on the timing, and it's going to result in Lumiere finding himself a kill in addition to really the solid farm that he's been able to pick up so far.
Yeah, and his wave is also all the way back up to the tower because they were playing so much in that large camp. Everything just kind of got pushed forward, and there's no rebuttal play on the other side. I think now it's going to push into Brax just because some of those creeps did end up going under tower, but still, Lumiere is going to be very satisfied with his position in this game. But mid, what's happening here?
What is this? Both IX Mike and Michael made their way over. That's a good ward, though, from Michael. That's going to get them some nice vision, but, well, IX Mike with a better play. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but he just stands in front. If that arrow can... Oh, God, Ryoya, he may still die. He gets clipped by the Torrent, and now the leap in from Michael's going to get him right there for the final right click. It was a decent attempt with the phase shift, but he can only dodge one of those two right clicks, so they will take Ryoya down. Mike now falls as Michael picks up the double on that rotation, but he runs right into Flea afterwards, and actually Flea may want to be the one who's careful here. He gets clipped by the arrow. The Starstorm could come out, but Alone... Actually, Alone doesn't want the fight, but Lumiere does. He's going to come in with the Boundless, and at Shackle will not matter. Michael with the triple kill. When have you ever seen a triple kill on a Mirana at the 5-minute mark? That is something new, but big rotations out from Michael early, just like we were seeing from him the last time around, so he is putting his stamp on this game as early and often as possible.
Yeah, and Mike tried to shadow his opponent as much as he could, and he had a nifty play where he did block the arrow there for Ryoya, but that's where you're already seeing, unfortunately, Alone kind of walk away with the mid lane. He's done a really good job, and the problem with this lane is that you can just keep canceling. Yeah, he just goes a little bit too far forward.
That was very nicely done. They start with the shards into that tag team. They wait for that to dissipate entirely, then the snowball. They wait for the snowball in its entirety before the Boundless, and that is incredibly well timed to just keep Brax too far away from backup. Flea does get there, but not in time to provide any assistance.
Yeah, and the play that worked before is every single time a tag team went down, you would be able to shackle up the Monkey King, and so the stacks don't actually happen, but A has a few too many levels at this point, and that's where this lane is actually going to be a much bigger struggle because, again, you're a Shadow Shaman. You're not a Mirana this time around, so securing those range creeps and actually putting a lot of threat on your opponents isn't really that big. Like, you look at Flea, he's got Ethershock, he's got 140 damage spell, and okay.
Well,
He's out of mana.
Yeah, alright, Brax is able to get out that time, so they will keep them at bay, and that was the Wukong's command being used. Now Fleet, what, yeah, I don't know about that one. Mike was coming in, but they are still looking for this fight. The snowball is onto Brax. Lumiere is waiting for the Boundless. He's still got a few seconds left for it, though, and now with Michael coming in, they drop the arrow down, but I don't know if they have the damage to keep this going. A's just kind of stuck in the middle, and he is going to be sacrificed while Michael now has to run away from Ryoya, so Well, I see what Infamous were trying to do there. They just didn't really have a full tank of gas, so to speak. But now, alone, he's hitting up Ryoya a little bit here, but I don't know if he has the damage to really do this by himself. The X is there into maybe a ghost ship play, but... well, he's really just going along with this. Ryoya is going to try to jump away. And
oh my
god,
goodness.
he dodges the first hit on the X, but the secondary, that boat just keeps on going and it makes contact. That is...
Tip him.
Yeah.
Tip him.
I don't care if it was intentional or not. That is tip-worthy. Alone just sets it up, and they got IX Mike on the back of it as well. So really, Infamous, outside of that one maybe misplay up in the top lane we saw a moment or two ago, everything is going their way. Even when it looked like Alone may have missed on the first attempt, he still makes the connection, and a hero that is normally so incredibly hard to keep locked down in Ryoya just cannot get away. But now, might see a bit of a return play here, but look at that torrent into the snowball. They do still drop down the Dream Coil, however, and I think that should be enough. A will die. Flea, oh god. Flea very nearly dies as well, but Alone, that's a little bit greedy. That spear pins him down. The Hex comes through as well, and Alone, he's dead. I do not think that would have been worth it, even if he does get that last bit of damage onto Flea. That's just sticking around too long with 4 heroes in the area.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit surprised that Lumiere didn't walk it in as well. I think if the Monkey King shows up, that fight gets even more aggressive, but, well, it's a really good response from Team. They bring the right amount of players, and even Brax having to make a really rough decision there. Look at his XP. He was so close to level 6, but makes the rotation because he knew that he was going to be necessary there, and at least they get something with their coil. Not only the coil, but you take 2 heroes down, and you save a little bit of Ryoya's game.
Yeah, it's still rough that the puck's gotten picked off twice here, but you get something into his hands. See the Witchblade being queued up for him, still a ways away from it, but that is going to be some progress for the puck. And it is worth mentioning at this point, all the while, you do still have Sammy farming. Maybe not quite at the rate compared to some of the other cores right now, looking at that sort of net worth tab there, but he is making progress, and stronger the Naga Siren gets, the better that Team are going to be looking later on in this match. For now, though, well, now there might be a bit of an emphasis on these towers. The problem is Sacred doesn't hit towers very well at all. He does have the triple null, though, so this Illuminate is going to do quite a bit clearing through the creep wave, but they need help to actually bring that tier 1 down. The creep wave is going to continue pushing in onto it, but I mean, maybe they can get it with just themselves, but it's going to be a slow process.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit slow, but it is gonna happen. I think Sammy Boy stepped a little bit too far away, so it just means that this tower is more or less going to be forfeit. Of course, it will become a safe haven for the Naga, especially with how many TPs are flooding top, and Brax knows.
Snowball's still on him, though. Boundless Strike comes out. That's a very nice play with the shards, keeping Brax locked in, and that Wukong's just continuously dishing out the damage. Now Flea actually gets slowed up, knocked back as well by Sacred, so they could continue this chase. That slow is so impressive right now, and Flea does not have a lot of HP. Maybe 1 or 2 more hits could finish him off. And they just need the vision of it, and they will be able to get it. Lumiere tracks it down, and now if you're Ryoya, I don't know if you want to push into that. Even with the Dream Coil, that would be a 1v3, and Mike's really your only immediate backup.
Yeah, and that's where it does feel like Infamous are really going to start pulling hard on the map. You need to see those coil plays with the arena come out. It's so much magic damage. And A, okay, he's going to eat the coil, but I think he's happy with this.
Be able to bring him down there, but yeah, he eats the coil. He got the D ward that he wanted, so overall, that's not really a sacrifice he cares much about. Now that tier 1, they're not going to get here in time. The tower's just going to fall. Ryoya tries to get over with the Illudior, but Alone's got it, and that is another tower taken. So sacrificing A, sure, but if it gets you a kill or a tower or both, then you're going to be more than happy with that trade-off. And now you see Alone pushing into the south side jungle. That was previously Sammy Boy's territory, and Sammy's not really in a position to fight right now. No points in the ensnare, and he's only sitting on his Yasha, so he's just kind of got to clear out, and he's fortunate that Alone didn't have backup and didn't go looking any deeper.
And you got to be so careful. If you look at Alone, just finished up a full Orchid. He's looking to catch off guard. If anyone, Ryoya, if he's able to get the puck with this initial reveal, it's going to be absolutely massive. Even picks up the Keen Optic just so he's going to be able to catch them off guard even more. Unfortunately, I think Michael did get spotted a little bit here, but They're looking for more important targets like Brax.
Brax is going to get hit up by the snowball. The shards had already been used, but there's going to be that walrus punch coming in into the X, into the ghost ship, and Brax really doesn't have any backup right now. His supports were nearby, but they don't want to get involved, because if they do, not only could they probably not save Brax there, they may have very well gotten hit up themselves as the X leads into the arrow. IX Mike gets hit by it. Another torrent comes out, and the Illuminate from Sacred flies through to finish the job. So that combo, I mean, that's going to be there for them really all day. Until those BKBs come out on these heroes, they're just going to be able to guarantee that lockdown.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Team, they're TPing a little bit too much here. They're being forced into every single lane by their opponents, and he's got a haste rune. I think he's going to be fine, but it's still super obnoxious to deal with.
At least the puck gets away. And Sammy, well, with the focus elsewhere on the map, he was able to sort of move his way back into that south side jungle to get the farming going again, but it, at this point, kind of feels like they need to buy him more time, because the Manta alone is not going to be enough for him to really be a big difference maker. So this is where things are going to get awkward, especially with IX Mike getting caught out, but they actually try to jump in onto Sammy. Can they keep him locked down? He does have the song. Actually, no, he didn't. He already used it. Just used it in the fight, but it's going to be enough to get him away. And now they might actually turn. They take down A. They're going to look for Sacred as well. Sacred is just going to try to channel out and illuminate before he dies, and technically he'll do so, but it's not enough to save him. So Sammy gets away. The song sets his team up for 2 kills, and Brax, you might want to be a little bit careful here. That X is coming out. There's no torrent, but with Lumiere sort of pushing into position, I don't want to go too far forward.
Yeah, they just don't want to risk that fight, but it's good picks from Team. They're able to pick off the easy kills there, and that is the one downside of picking Tusk, or rather having Tusk versus the puck. You can't do anything. You can throw shards and you can throw a punch, but you can't snowball. You're just stuck there. It's one of the most annoying aspects of that hero, especially puck versus the Tusk, because you always want to be near your allies. You always want to look for the snowball saves, and puck perfectly counters you out. I think it's a big reason why they decided to go for it, but such an early Yules.
Oh.
Okay.
The arrow hits the creep instead, but they do still have the X into the boat. With that silence down, Brax will still fall. They want Ryoya as well. This feels like it's going to be rough for them, but that is a very well-timed series of stuns. The snowball, the punch, the boundless, all coming in perfectly. And Ryoya, by the time he realizes what's coming, it's too late to react. He gets taken down, and now Sammy, once again, is going to get pushed off of his farm. The boundless strike locks him down. Lumiere is going to try and close the gap, and Michael hit an arrow. If he hits this, they could very easily find this. Okay, well, yeah, that's maybe kind of cheating a little bit as he sets up the Yules, but gets the job done. Sammy gets taken down, and this is a massively staggered lineup now for Team because you're getting the puck back up in a few seconds, but the Naga Siren is still down.
And look, they're pinging alone. They want to find the play onto him. He was trying to take their ancient stack, but they have to give up on the kill. They will defend their stack at the very least, but now we'll get the immediate rotation. They say, okay, we don't care about bottom. We're going to get it eventually, so might as well try and look for this engagement. Unfortunately, Infamous aren't able to actually find it, so they will disperse back out onto the map, but you got to be so careful. Team are probably feeling a little bit pressed right now. They haven't, again, been able to find those plays, I think large in part because Brax has had a much worse game as opposed to the previous one. Blink Dagger is much more delayed, and I think without it, it's very hard for them to actually find this Coddle Marana Tusk. They need to stack their spells as well. It's not like you can commit the arena for one set of kills and then the Dream Coil for another. You really need to use them together, otherwise these Infamous heroes are so slippery, and well, they're looking for Flea, but don't think they'll get that either.
No connection there with the arrow, but you see them just constantly prowling around looking for really any opportunity, and now Sacred, he really is just going for that mid-Coddle build just in the off lane. He's got the Boots of Travel, he's got the Triple Null, he's got the Dagons starting to build up now, so, well, I mean, maybe that works. It wasn't really viable anymore in the middle lane, but as a position 3 hero, maybe he can still get away with it, as right now they're looking to get away with this smoke gank, rotating their way all the way up from the south, and if Sammy's the first one hit, that would be huge. They don't hit him immediately, but where can they jump? They're trying for it. They got the Yules onto Sammy, but in the lane itself, Lumiere tried to jump in onto Flea. They will be able to lock him down, but they really do want that Naga first. They do manage to get it. Sammy will be taken down, and now Ryoya's got to run. He did throw down the Dream Coil. That's going to allow him to escape, but Brax got picked off, and now Mike, TP canceled by the Boundless, so that is 4 dead, and Ryoya, I mean, he may have survived, but his Dream Coil gets committed there just to get him out, so that is pretty horrible. They get completely taken by surprise there, even in a situation where they had the vision realistically speaking, in the perfect spot you would have wanted it, but they're not ready for the smoke.
Yeah, as soon as Sammy Boy pinged it, he knew where the Kunkka was going to try and catch it. You just song. You get out, you try to get everyone as far away as possible, and then you fill out the map again, but oh, he
Oh,
even
they've
got the
got him
real one
again.
mid.
Well, the arrow won't
He
connect.
should be fine.
And Flea with the shackles, yeah. I don't really know if they want this fight. Michael's going to set up the Yule's play, but there's no arrow this time. But alone, he's still in trouble. But now here comes Lumiere in with the Wukong's command, trying to cover for his teammate. That's a lot of damage being dished out. But now Sammy popping that song. Flea still gets taken down by Sacred, though, as he was just outside of that radius. And now Sammy didn't actually leave. He is backing off now, but Ryoya just wanders into the fight, gets silenced up immediately. And there's nothing. There's nothing left for them to do. Sammy committed the ult, so they can't go back in. Ryoya's dead, so you don't have that flanker. And Rax, still with no Blink Dagger, can't really make any sort of big initiation either.
Yeah, and I think Team really didn't respect how much Infamous was set up there. They had the high ground ward already. They had vision of the fight that they wanted. And if you're unable to get that arena down on top of that song, I think you just need to run away. Because what ended up happening is they kited so far away from their tombstone that Mike wasn't really sure where to put it. So that goes down maybe a half step too late. In addition to just not able to use anything. They already used the Serpent Ward's top, so it's not like they had that available to them. In Ryoya, he ends up trying to find a pick on the backside. He looks for a kill onto Michael. Michael just simply uses him and walks away, and then gets the fadeaway arrow onto him as soon as he gets punished yet again by the Orchid on Alone. So it just really feels like Infamous are outplaying their opponents here, and Team are still looking for that fight to bring them back into the game. But on their current trajectory, it just feels like they are not going to find that entrance. It feels like once some of these big items are completed on the Infamous side, they are just going to run out of damage in a lineup that is already sorely lacking damage. And that was a little bit of a problem with this puck pickup. You don't have damage coming from your lineup. You need to rely on your early timing, and then you kind of bide your time in the mid game, then you have a strong late timing. But right now we are at the biggest lull for them. This is their smallest power spike.
And right now is when you would be hoping that that power spike could maybe be made up for with the Mars finding some pickups. But again, still no Blink. 500 gold away from it. So you don't have that guy to sort of pick up the slack. And Infamous, in the meantime, they're not just going to sit idly by. They're going to keep on pushing. They're going to start putting pressure on some of these tier 2s across the mid and bottom lanes, and they'll take slowly but surely all of the farm away from Sammy that they possibly can. So if you're Team, you may not be ready to fight, but you may be forced into those engagements. Otherwise, you're going to be sacrificing a lot of space.
Yeah, and I think now just look at getting back onto the map, try to get back into this game. Again, it all has to come from Brax. If Brax needs to sit in a lane that Sammy Boy wants to farm, give it to him. Try to get this Blink Dagger going, because if you can get on these supports, especially the Coddle, Sacred only has 1500 HP. It is the mid Coddle where if you get on top of him, he will die. He's still a Keeper of the Light. He has not that much armor, not that much HP to his name. The problem is that Infamous are yet again the ones initiating these engagements, and
oh no,
full bottom.
Lumiere with the perfectly timed jump there. The tree dance gets him out just as Brax was trying to lock him down, and that is painful. Yeah, now they gotta go. IX Mike's gonna get jumped in on, though, immediately blown up, and now Alone gets a silence down into the Shadow Shaman, hits him up with the X, into the Torrent, into the Tidebringer, and Brax, appreciate the effort, I suppose, if you're his teammate, but that's not gonna do enough. The spear comes through, but Flea will still be taken down, and now, exactly what we were just saying, they're gonna keep pushing, they're gonna start focusing on some of those tier 2 towers, and Sammy just has to clear out. He has to operate really exclusively in this western section of the map.
Yeah, and they're making a good play onto A here. I think A is a little bit in no man's land, and that's where Brax is definitely going to try and pursue him. But these are the scraps, and look at this. Lumiere is immediately coming to try and help his teammate out, and I don't think they're ready for this big engagement. Look at him. Okay.
I mean, we talked about how maybe squishy Sacred was, but the puck even more so. He's got less than 1200 HP, so it only really takes one or two of those major lockdown spells from Infamous, and they can blow that one up. Now Sammy trying to get involved here. The spear comes in, so they'll lock down A. That is going to net them a kill, but I mean, you lose Ryoya, and you do get A eventually, but just feels like it's too heavy a cost for them to bear. And now look at Alone. He pushed all the way up to that tier 3 tower, even got a little bit of damage on it before Sammy TP'd in.
Yep, and now Alone has a full BKB, so he can feel pretty safe in his positioning. But yeah, he's just going to hit this tower until someone comes here. And he doesn't know that Sammy Boy is actually here, but wait.
No song from Sam. I mean, the BKB was there, but it would have maybe kept Michael away from it. But, well, that is unbelievably unfortunate. Sammy just gets absolutely outplayed by the two-man game from Infamous, and now that he's dead, you see, they've just got to scramble everybody over here to hold this. So any other ambitions, aspirations, any plans that they had elsewhere on the map are just kind of put on hold as they have to immediately deal with this aggression from the Infamous side. And they're not going to be able to stop this. They don't get the high ground push that they may have wanted, but they're at least going to be able to clear out the tier 2 mid and just really put the stranglehold on Team's lineup.
Yeah, and I think Sammy just TP to the lane thinking he could block the arrow with his mirror image illusions, but he also didn't have Manta, so it's hard, especially with how quick Infamous are. They're so quick with the decision making, especially Lumiere. Lumiere is so quick to immediately give up on a push, look for the kills, and because he's Monkey King, he doesn't care about it. He's gone for both Tree Dance talents for the second game in a row, and again...
Boundless onto 2. Mike is not dead yet. He's able to get away, but Lumiere will track down that kill. Meanwhile, Brax got pulled back in by the X, and Blinks out for now. Can he get any further? That is a very defensive arena, and it actually did cut Lumiere down, so he is stunned up, and maybe Brax makes it away, or maybe not. The Solar Bind comes out, the Boundless Strike will clip him, and Sacred does bring him down. So Brax led them on quite the chase, but will still end in his death. And at this point, Infamous, I mean, you've mentioned it repeatedly now, ET, they are just so unbelievably quick. They just know, okay, you know what, we're done with what we were doing just now, we're going here instead. And every time it's resulting in kills or objectives, and Team really just feel like they're running out of time already.
Yeah, and Lumiere, it's so fantastic to watch him play this Monkey King, because we've seen Monkey Kings already in this tournament. They don't go for the Tree Dance talents, they go for the more stat-oriented build, and you'd think a player like Lumiere, who wasn't messing around with Medusa Ags whenever that was the most broken thing in the game, would go for that more stat-heavy play, but he is so active on this Monkey King. It's actually just so much fun to watch him walking around the entire map, uncontestedly, not to mention, but he is just always looking for these picks for his teammates, and I think he is the key player that is constantly setting up for everyone, as well as Infamous just doing a really good job of spreading out on the map constantly. It just feels like their team in itself fosters a lot of these play, and really now, Team, they got Blink on Brax, they've got a few more items, they've got Double Blink, but the problem is Double Blink isn't stats. It doesn't help you tank up versus any of the damage that Infamous are doing. It lets you find that initiation, sure, but that's where I think we might see Team adopt that split push style, try to logical this game, try to really postpone the timing here that Infamous have geared themselves towards, because there's a BKB on Alone that he hasn't had the opportunity to really use just yet. Same with BKB in the pipeline for Lumiere, and once those are online, this game becomes much more difficult for them.
Yeah, it's just... It's only going to get harder for Team moving forward until we reach maybe that 35 to 40 minute mark where Sammy could maybe think about making a breakthrough. But right now, he's really not there yet. Diffuser Blade is up. He's working towards the heart. That's all steps in the right direction for him as Mike. Yeah, going to get stunned up. Sacred comes in with the Dagon play, and that is only a level 4 one as well. So not quite the maximum damage, but speaking of damage, Flea going to get himself caught out there in the jungle, and now they are tracking. Yep. Didn't keep the vision.
They're going to give up.
Okay. Thought maybe Sacred could spot him for a moment, but now they have a chance to push down that middle lane once again, get some damage onto the tier 3 perhaps, and Brax. Oh, Brax pulled back in by the X. He's going to get hit by that Illuminate, and they just blow him up. There's a buyback available at this point, but this is rough. Team, they're going to have to mount a defense, and Sammy is not in the base. He does have a TP, but this is not going to be an easy sort of play for them to make, and at this point, do you maybe just sacrifice the racks? Because even if Sammy TP's back, I don't know how much of a fight they're going to be able to get, but without the song, I don't really know if they can mount the defense at all. They're going to go for it. There's the Spear Stun. They lock down the Kunkka. They've got him trapped up inside of nothing as the Snowball now pulls him out. And Alone now has time to pop the BKB, and this fight is going to start turning. Sammy trying to hold on to that song for as long as he possibly can. He wants to wait till the BKBs are over. And, well, he is waiting for quite some time, and actually his teammates are kind of handling this song or no song as they've taken down Alone. A is isolated inside of the base. That's an interesting time for the song to come out. I'm pretty sure they had the kill onto A there either way, but didn't want to take any risks, so Ryoya is able to pick up a double and a couple, actually not a couple, just the one buyback used on Brax. So resource-wise, that wasn't really all that bad for Team. The tier 3 goes down, but the defense is coherent enough to sort of keep Infamous at bay for the time being.
Yeah, and they are not out of it just yet. That was without the Wukong's command. That was where they didn't have the BKB completed on the Monkey King as well. So Lumiere sits there and just tanks the death on his Aegis. Doesn't really care too much about it, but it felt a lot riskier for Team, especially once there was already that BKB committed. But okay, keep the plays going.
Look at those TPs coming in, though. This is a fight that I'm not really sure, Team wanted in the first place, as Ryoya is going to try to jump himself away. He does have a TP. He's not going for it just yet, but while he waits, Flea is going to get jumped in on. He does have the shard, though, so he is dropping a couple of those Serpent Wards down with every shackle, but that's not really going to be enough. They scan. They know Ryoya's still here. And they're going to go looking for him. Now your Puck has to make a mad dash here. This is why he was still holding on to that TP scroll. Can he find the opportunity? Lumiere's holding the Boundless Strike, trying to get that vision down. The arrow doesn't hit, but they should have seen him, and they did. The Yule Scepter comes in, and Ryoya, now he's just got to try and make it out on foot. He'll throw down a very nice Dream Coil, but it's just not enough. Sacred's in there for the damage, and it takes 4 heroes and a little bit of time, but Ryoya will be picked off.
Yeah, and they keep finding him. It's something that Lumiere, again, he is so good. I thought that it would be the opposite. I thought it would be a role reversal this time around. It would be the Puck chasing around the Monkey King, but Lumiere is just that damn good. And unfortunately now, Team have bought themselves a little bit of time. There's a heart now finished up on Sammy Boy. We're looking at some bigger items, specifically this Brax BKB. Once the Mars has that, then you can see him play even further up on these supports. The big problem is still that they just don't have any way to get out of the Solar Bind. They're still really thin whenever it comes to dealing with the magic damage that Sacred just pours out. He also has a completed Hex here, so yep, there goes Sammy Boy's illusions. Any split push now is just going to be the Coddle walking over, very simply clearing it out, and then joining back with his team. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him get the Aghanim Shard as well. Just make that recall also available to you. It'd be so obnoxious for Team to deal with that on top of everything else.
This is already a lineup for Infamous that we've been sort of raving about being so mobile, so quick to make those decisions.
Oh, Michael!
To move around the map as...
Jumped out of the arena. Nifty play.
Brax, I mean, what is that, the second? Yeah, I think second time now that that's happened to him, so he just really can't seem to catch much of a break here, and that puts the arena on cooldown. Gotta wait another 70 seconds before they can make a move, but they did just smoke up, but they smoke into Alone. Ryoya not able to snag that rune, and now IX Mike is going to get hit up. That X into Torrent into the arrow locks him down, and Ryoya just got to clear away, but Sacred is still on him. There's going to be the Hex. He's set up with the Illuminate as well. Lumiere's now coming in for the Boundless Strike. The Dagon comes through, and Ryoya gets picked off. It's just too much for him to handle. Ryoya doesn't have any defensive items right now. The Blink is his only utility of any kind. It's his only real movement outside of his own kid, and if he gets hit up like we just saw there, it doesn't do him any good.
And look at the position. Infamous now get to centralize. They're not letting Sammy Boy out of his base, and they cut the top wave. So if they go for this split push play top, if Flea puts wards down here, they go immediately up the high ground, I think. I don't think they're going to react to this at all. Yep.
Wards deployed, they don't care. Alone's in onto the tier 3 tower, and they will dare someone from Team to come and stop them. Sammy is going to send the illusions, but at the same time, look at this. Lumiere, they're actually going for multiple lanes. They'll push their way bot as well. So really trying to spread those defenders thin on the Team side. And okay, never mind. Alone is now making his way over. So they're not going to be quite that greedy. Looking to just secure one lane and then clear out, but Flea jumps in. They got down that Hex. They're going to get the Shackle onto Alone. Can they actually bring him down, though? Alone still holding. BKB active. Teammates come in to help him out, and it's just an absolute disaster for the Team side. But the buybacks are going to come through. They still want to keep the fight going, really, at this point, out of desperation. Sammy, though, is silenced. He can't get the song off just yet, and well, at this point, does he really want to use it? The torrent is really just keeping him locked in place. Now the song will come out, but Lumiere already has his BKB active, so he's going to continue trying to dish out this damage. And it just feels like at this point, I understand trying to hold the song, but Sammy may have held that a little bit too long. By the time he gets it down, they just don't have anything left to make any sort of counterplay as Mike will be taken down. Ryoya does get a kill onto A away on the backline, but Alone is now sort of keeping him in an awkward spot, but Ryoya is going to be able to blink away, and at this point, if you're Infamous, I don't really think you focus on Ryoya anymore. He's used pretty much everything he has. Sammy is the one on the front line alone and exposed, so they're going to try and go for it. As they'll jump onto Flea, they lock him down, but Flea's sacrifice gets Sammy away. Lumiere wants to continue the chase here, but I don't know if they really want to go onto the tier 4s. That would be a little bit risky, and now Ryoya has managed to get back into his own base, but he's going to get silenced up by that, by that Kunkka. They hit him up with the Boundless as well. Not able to finish the kill, though, but Ryoya has to try and fall back, but Michael hits him up with the Starstorm damage, and Ryoya will fall. No buyback on that puck, and Team really look like they're running out of resources. No one can buy back right now. It's up to Sammy and Brax to try and hold this, but there's no arena and there's no song. Well, there's an arena now, but he's already dead. Sacred blows him up, and Sammy is really just trying to buy time, I think, at this point. But the X is going to be pulling him back into the torrent. They've got down that Wukong's command as well. And Sammy will fall. IX Mike, meanwhile, just respawned. Welcome back to the game. You're probably dead again, or maybe not. But the GG will be called. So Mike will be spared, but no, he will not. Wow, Sacred. Okay. Sacrifices himself to get that final kill, but it was the end of the game. But Infamous, I mean, game 1 looked pretty damn good for them. Game 2, honestly, even more dominant on their part.
Yeah, and I think the big difference is that even though you got Sammy Boy onto a hero he's much more comfortable with, instead, as soon as they see that, Infamous completely swap the pressure. They decide that, okay, you have a Naga Siren in the safe lane now. You're not a sniper. Sniper needs to get off to a good start. Sammy Boy already has his start guaranteed, so we're going to make this Mars's life absolutely miserable. There were so many circumstances in that early game where Brax was forced into 1v3 situations where, sure, you can try and bring as many heroes as you can, but at the end of the day, that is still a really hard team fight, and a team fight that typically they weren't winning. It's a 20-minute Blink Dagger coming in from him. His timings were so slowed down, and Infamous never skipped a beat. They played so well with this lead, and I think Team again, they struggled getting the vision, they struggled getting the plays going for them where they were able to find those weak targets on the Infamous side. I also think Alone specifically, really smart item choices, really smart build-up from him, going for the Orchid BKB. He's just not a target anymore. The one time he died was because he definitely overstayed his welcome in the bottom lane, and that was the only time I think post maybe 15 minutes where Team were actually able to take anything from Infamous. But as soon as Infamous were able to get back out onto the map, it was the same story. They pushed that high ground even without having an Aegis to their name. They could have waited for the next Roche, but instead they just wanted to pull the trigger and get this one done. And Sacred still proving that Coddle is still broken if you can get a Dagon for it before the 20-minute mark. So there you go. Coddle first pick. Welcome back.
Yeah, it's a little bit different position-wise from what we had seen before, but the build and the play style and the results very much familiar. So Infamous, I mean, they handle business back-to-back matches where they just kind of take it to Team. Panda was telling us in that post-series interview he thought Infamous were going to be able to just outplay Team, and that's very much what happened. So Infamous do take the series sweep. They will move on to the upper bracket final. They'll play against Panda and No Ping, I believe, 2 days from now. Meanwhile, for Team, they drop down to the lower bracket. They'll face up against Hikori tomorrow afternoon. So with that in mind, I am awaiting confirmation on whether or not we're going to be getting an interview going here. So we will be waiting for news on that. So we're going to step away for just a moment. We'll either come back with that interview or with our sort of closeout here for the day. So stick around for just a little while longer, folks. We will be right back.